scientists have made an incredible discovery under the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, and it has left them completely shocked. After years of research and exploration, they've uncovered something that challenges everything we thought we knew about this iconic site. The findings are so groundbreaking that they could potentially rewrite history as we know it. Get ready to have your mind blown, because this is one discovery you won't want to miss. The rock is at the top of Mount Moriah, which has long been revered. The naked rock at the top was considered to be the mouth of the snake Tahum and the confluence of the underworld and above the world in an ancient Semitic tradition. It's also known as the foundation stone. According to the Talmud, the world was created from this rock, which was the first part of the earth to come into existence. The world was not created until God took a stone called even haShetiya and tossed it into the depths where it was fixed from above till below, and from it the world grew, according to the Zohar. It is the center of the universe, and here stood the Holy of Holies. According to the Torah, God gathered the earth that was created into Adam around here. Adam and later Cain, Abel, and Noah presented sacrifices to God on this rock. According to Jewish sources, this rock is the location recounted in the Torah where Abraham fulfilled God's test to see if he was willing to sacrifice his son Isaac. Muslims believe that God instructed Abraham to sacrifice Ismail. When King David, according to the Bible, purchased a threshing floor owned by Araunah, the Jebusite, it is thought that he offered the sacrifice indicated in the verse and had a revelatory vision of angels ascending a golden ladder into the sky on this rock. He desired to build a permanent temple there, but because his hands were bloodied, he was forbidden to do so. The task was passed down to his son Solomon, who finished the temple around 950 BCE. The Holy of Holies was originally thought to be positioned atop the rock. The location is significant for Christians because in addition to being the temple, it is also where Jesus came as a small boy and later prayed and taught. It is claimed that during the Byzantine Empire, Emperor Constantine I's mother built a modest church called the Church of St. Cyrus and St. John, which was later rebuilt and named the Church of the Holy Wisdom on the site where the dome was eventually built. Muslims revere the site because according to Islamic legend, it is the location from which Muhammad ascended to heaven, accompanied by the angel Gabriel. According to the Quran, Muhammad was transported by night from the sacred temple to the most remote temple, whose precinct we have hallowed, that we could show him our signs. The Kaaba in Makkah and the Jewish temple in Jerusalem are thought to be the two temples. Muhammad's night trip was accompanied by the archangel Gabriel, and they rode on El Burak, a winged stallion. They made brief stops at Mount Sinai and Bethlehem before landing on Jerusalem's Temple Mount. They met Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and other prophets there. Before going to the summit of the rock, Muhammad led them in prayer. A ladder of golden light arose, and Muhammad ascended through the seven heavens into the presence of God, who instructed him on how to pray for himself and his followers. Muhammad was flown back to Makkah following the encounter. Dimensions, location, and construction. The Dome of the Rock is situated at the visual center of an old man-made platform known as the Temple Mount by Jews and the Haram al-Sharif by Muslims, or Noble Sanctuary. The platform, which was substantially expanded under Herod the Great's reign, was the previous location of the Second Jewish Temple, which was destroyed during the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE. During the Islamic invasion of the Byzantine Empire in 637 CE, the Rashidun Caliphate army seized Jerusalem. Caliph Umar ordered the Patriarch to bring him to the location of the old Jewish temple after forging a peace deal. Umar was astounded to discover the location covered in trash, as the Romans had established the practice of using it as a manure mound. Umar quickly knelt and began clearing the area with his hands. When the Muslims saw what he was doing, they followed suit, and the entire 35-acre area was quickly cleaned up. He ordered the construction of a wooden mosque on the southern end of the site, exactly where the current Al-Aqsa Mosque sits. A rabbi, Ka'b al-Ahbar, who had converted to Islam, then took Umar to the location of the foundation stone. This is an 1887 print. Architect Frederick Catherwood was the first Westerner to make precise sketches of the Dome of the Rock, which he did over a 6-week period in 1833. Between 685 and 691 CE, the Dome of the Rock was built. The dome's initiator, Umayyad Caliph Abdi al-Malik ibn Marwan, anticipated that it would shelter the Muslims from cold and heat, and planned the structure to function as a shrine for pilgrims rather than a mosque for public worship. Yazid ibn Salam of Jerusalem and Raja ibn Haway of Bayzan were commanded to spend lavishly on the construction. Al-Makdizi reported in his book of geography that the dome cost 7 times the revenue of Egypt. During a conversation with his uncle on why the Caliph spent so much money on the mosques in Jerusalem and Damascus, al-Makdisi writes, according to Hebrew University professor Shlomo Dov Goitin, the Dome of the Rock was built to relieve the fitna, or annoyance, caused by the presence of other religions' great temples. Although the shape of the Qubat al-Sakra was new to Islam, it was meant to rival the various Christian domes. According to A.C. Creswell's book, Origin of the Plan of the Dome of the Rock, people who built the shrine used the measurements of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The shrine's dome is 20.2 meters in diameter and 20.48 meters in height, whereas the Church of the Holy Sepulchre's dome measures 20.9 meters in diameter and 21.5 meters in height. The structure. The dome is shaped like a Byzantine martyrium, a structure designed to house and venerate saintly relics, and is a remarkable example of Middle Byzantine art. According to al-Makdisi, leftover monies were melted down and cast on the dome's facade, which at the time had such a strong glitter that no eye could gaze straight at it. The outside of the Dome of the Rock was coated in Iznik tiles during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent. The project took 7 years to complete. During the mandate, Haj Amin al-Husseini, who was designated Grand Mufti by the British, worked with Yaqub al-Hussein to restore the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Jordan's government began a major reconstruction initiative in 1955, with monies provided by Arab nations and Turkey. The restoration included the replacement of a vast number of tiles going back to Suleiman the Magnificent's reign that had become displaced due to severe rain. The dome was covered with a robust aluminum and bronze alloy produced in Italy in 1960 as part of this repair. In August 1964, the restoration was completed. The Golden Dome covering was restored in 1998 thanks to an $8.2 million donation from King Hussein of Jordan, who sold one of his London homes to purchase the 80 kilograms of gold required. Interior. The dome's interior is elaborately decorated with mosaic, faience, and marble, much of which was added centuries after it was completed. There are also Quranic inscriptions on it. Suleiman the Magnificent commissioned the tile work in the 16th century and inscribed Surah Yasin across the top. Over this, the word Al-Isra is engraved. According to Professor Shlomo Dov Goitin, the inner inscriptions plainly indicate a polemic against Christianity while emphasizing the Quranic belief that Jesus Christ was a legitimate prophet. The phrase, God has no companion, is repeated 5 times, and words from Surah Maryam 16:34-37, which firmly contradict Jesus' sonship to God, are read alongside the extraordinary prayer, Allahumma Salli, with Yah, read Salli without Yah. Ala Rasulika Wabadika Isa bin Maryam, pray for your prophet and servant Jesus son of Mary in the name of the one God, Allah. He argues that rivalry with Christendom, as well as the spirit of Islamic service to Christians, were at work in the construction of the famed dome. On the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, archaeologists have found a hitherto unknown gate in the eastern wall of the plaza that surrounds the Dome of the Rock. Recent excavations have uncovered 2 blocked-off arches in the eastern wall of the raised platform, which served as the location of the Nicanor Gate back when the temple was in use. Who was responsible for their construction and where did they lead? And does anything about the holiday of Sukkot come into play with this at all? Sukkot is intimately associated with the eastern wall of the raised platform, which is responsible for supporting the plaza around the Dome of the Rock, the Feast of Tabernacles or booths. During the time that the temple was standing, the Nicanor Gate was located on this wall. This is in accordance with the Jewish tradition, which locates the Holy of Holies at the very center of the Dome of the Rock. The staircase that leads down from it currently has a total of 25 steps. However, it initially only had a total of 15 steps. When they went down to draw water from the pool of Siloam, the Levites stood on these steps and sang the 15 songs of the degrees that are found in the Book of Psalms. This took place during the feast of Beit HaShoeva, also known as the ceremony of drawing water, which took place during the festival of Sukkot. This wall is oriented in an almost precise north-south line, a half-degree variation, which may be explained by a certain change in the magnetic north over the course of thousands of years, much as the temple itself was positioned according to precise astronomical directions. This eastern wall maintains a remembrance of the most significant difference in height that existed on the old Temple Mount, specifically the height difference that distinguished the higher court of Israel from the lower court of the women. Over the past several weeks, Dr. Eli David has noticed 2 blocked arches on this wall, which, as far as is known, are not referenced in the scholarly literature of the Temple Mount dating back to the 19th century. It appeared as though there was a way through here that had been closed off at some point in the past. Dr. Lean Rittmeyer, an archaeologist who has been conducting research on the Temple Mount since the 1970s, is another person who was unaware of these arches, but has since hypothesized that they were constructed during the time of the Crusaders or even earlier. The plaza that surrounds the Dome of the Rock was most likely constructed in the 7th or 8th century AD for the express aim of providing support for the Dome of the Rock, according to Rittmeyer. Despite this, it most likely has a number of components that are quite a little older. There are 3 courses of ancient construction that continue from the northern end of this wall along the northern wall of the raised platform. These courses are located at the northernmost point of this wall. According to his speculation, it's conceivable that this corner was the terminus of the Soreg, which marked the boundary of the area beyond which it was illegal for outsiders and filthy people to approach. There is evidence of the existence of further underground compartments that have been closed off at the southernmost end of the eastern wall. In the middle of the 19th century, British expedition officer Charles Warren sought for permission to explore this space. The very next day, however, a pile of dirt was erected in front of the aperture that prevented access, and this pile was eventually covered by a stone blocking wall. According to the estimates performed by Rittmeyer, this location once served as the chamber of hewn stone, which is where the Sanhedrin would convene court hearings. And this wall has a few more things to tell us, the speaker continued. At one place in the wall, north of the stairway, 2 big stones still remain at the foot of the wall. Rittmeyer hypothesizes that these stones may have been from the period of Herod, and that they may have served as part of the retaining wall of the Court of the Ladies. Returning to the blocked arch openings found by Dr. Eli David, Rittmeyer notes that on the sides of these 2 arches, 2 big stones can be seen that appear to belong to a triple opening. He says this is evidence that the blocked arch openings once led to a triple opening. According to Rittmeyer, it is difficult to date the precise style of construction, but in his judgment, these stones are comparable to the ancient stone courses that were discussed earlier and which are positioned in the northeast corner of the eastern wall. According to his assessment, the opening could date back to the time of the Crusaders or perhaps earlier. Rittmeyer concedes that these architectural remains show that there is still plenty to investigate and learn, not just around the outer walls of the Herodian Temple Mount, but also on the Temple Mount Plaza itself. These architectural remains suggest that there is still much to explore and discover. The fact that this find was made in the days leading up to Sukkot is notable for a number of reasons. Music was an integral part of the celebrations that took place in Israel during the feasts, particularly during the present days of Sukkot. The Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah, which marked the beginning of the civil new year and took place on August 19, 2020, was heralded with the sound of trumpets. Yom Kippur, also known as the Day of Atonement, was observed on the 10th of Tishrei, which corresponded to September 29th of this year. On the 10th day of the 7th month of the Jubilee year, the trumpet of the Jubilee was blown. On the Day of Atonement, you are to make the trumpet sound across all of your territories, and you are to consecrate the 50th year, and you are to declare liberty to all the residents of the land throughout the entirety of the land. It will be a year of Jubilee for you, and every one of you will return to the land that is rightfully yours, as well as to the family that is rightfully yours. Leviticus 25, 9 and 10. After the daily morning sacrifice, a group of Levites and priests would go down to the Siloam pool, which is situated to the south of the Temple Mount, and draw 3 logs, a Talmudic liquid measurement, of fresh water to pour on the altar. This would take place every morning at daybreak during the festival of Sukkot. The sound of trumpets heralded their approach to the temple, carrying the water that they had collected. Before the beginning of Shabbat, the water was gathered and placed in a golden vessel in the temple so that it might be used for Shabbat. It is written in the Torah that a person who has never witnessed the water-drawing ceremony has never in his life experienced joy. Jesus performed this action in order to attract the attention of the onlookers to the ritual that he was about to perform in John 7, 37-39, where he said, "If anybody thirsts, let him come unto me and drink." According to what is said in the Scriptures, out of the belly of him who believes in me will flow rivers of live water. Folks, now it's time for some amazing facts. It was not a mosque when it was first built, the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, and academics aren't really sure what role it plays in the space. Despite the fact that the building's true spatial identity is up for debate, numerous people have erroneously identified it as a mosque. It has been determined that it is a shrine because it was constructed over a sacred stone, much like the Kaaba in Mecca. The limestone rock is known as the foundation stone, and it serves as the rock's namesake. Conflicts over credit. In spite of the fact that it was established that the shrine was commissioned by the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik, the later Abbasid Caliph al-Mamun attempted to take credit for the work by changing al-name Malik's with his own in the commemorative inscription, yet al-Mamun simply failed to modify the date, which allowed al-Malik to keep the credit that was rightfully his. The design, a conglomeration of disparate elements, the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. The edifice was erected between the years 688 and 691 CE under the patronage of Abd al-Malik, who was the Caliph of the Umayyad dynasty. An Umayyad Caliph named Malik gave the order to his Byzantine architects to draw ideas from the Jewish holy site of the Church of the Sepulchre, which is considered to be of the utmost significance in Judaism. This is another evidence that constructed legacy can be transcended by religious practice. The Holy Sepulchre was constructed using a combination of Romanesque, Byzantine, and Baroque architectural styles. The architectural element known as the rotunda, which can be found in the Holy Sepulchre and is also found in the Dome of the Rock, served as a primary source of inspiration for the design of the latter. The Golden Dome did not look like that for an indefinite amount of time. In spite of the widespread beliefs, the renowned dome, which has undergone numerous refurbishments, still shines brightly. It was originally gilded, but throughout the years it has undergone several restorations, and King Hussein of Jordan, who has since passed away, gilded it again. The lack of a separate entry to the holy site, the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. The Dome of the Rock does not have an entry gate, in contrast to many of its modern-day predecessors, many of which include conspicuous and ornate entrance gates. Instead, it contains, according to researchers Manwarul Islam and Zaid al-Hamad, 4 modest, almost imperceptible doorways of the lack of marked facade, expressing a hierarchy of form and function. The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem is a building whose true spatial identity is up for debate. Despite many people erroneously identifying it as a mosque, it has been determined that it is a shrine because it was constructed over a sacred stone, much like the Kaaba in Mecca. The limestone rock, known as the foundation stone, serves as the rock's namesake. The edifice was erected between the years 688 and 691 CE under the patronage of Abd al-Malik, who was the Caliph of the Umayyad dynasty. Conflicts over credit for the shrine have arisen over the years, although it was established that the shrine was commissioned by the Umayyad Caliph Abd al-Malik, and later Abbasid Caliph al-Mamun attempted to take credit for the work by changing al-name Malik's with his own in the commemorative inscription. However, al-Mamun simply failed to modify the date, which allowed al-Malik to keep the credit that was rightfully his. Alright folks, that's pretty much it for this one. See you in the next video.